The world of NHL hockey is fast, intense, and unpredictable. Over the last century of NHL action, we've seen dozens of terrible trades, unexpected draft results, and some downright insane oddities that have rewritten the hockey history books. In today's video, we're dishing out 8 hilariously weird and random facts about the NHL that you probably didn't know. Make sure you stick around until the end. Number 7 will leave you scratching your head. Let's dive in. First up, we have a backup goalie who got traded 4 times in a single offseason, including twice for the same player, all within the same summer. NHL offseasons have been busy and wild in recent years, but nothing compares to what Stefan Beauregard experienced in 1992. To set the stage, the 1992 offseason included an expansion draft as the NHL welcomed new teams in Ottawa and Tampa. The draft's complex rules led to some strategic maneuvering, especially when it came to goalies. Teams could protect 2 goalies, but had to expose at least 1 player with NHL experience. This created a chaotic situation involving Beauregard. A respected veteran, the Jets didn't want to lose for nothing. The first trade happened in June 1992, before the draft, when Winnipeg traded Beauregard to Buffalo for Christian Ruutu. The Sabres then traded him to Chicago in the famous Dominik Hasek deal. Just days later, the Blackhawks sent Beauregard back to Winnipeg for Ruutu. After all that, the Jets didn't have room for him on the roster, so they traded him to the Flyers for future considerations. He spent 1 season in Philadelphia before being traded back to the Jets in 1993. What a wild ride! In case you're curious, those 4 trades in 1 summer were more than the total number of wins Beauregard recorded for the rest of his NHL career. It was an absolutely chaotic offseason for him, something we're unlikely to see again. Next up is something truly remarkable. Phil Esposito scoring his 50th goal of the season on his birthday 3 times in 4 years. Esposito had a knack for celebrating his birthday in style, hitting the 50-goal mark on his birthday in 1971, 1972, and 1974. What makes this even more impressive is that his birthday falls on February 20th, which is quite early in the season to reach 50 goals. In fact, it's 1 day earlier than when Auston Matthews hit the milestone in the 2023-24 season. But Esposito wasn't playing around in the early 70s, when the expansion and WHA-diluted league couldn't keep up with him and Bobby Orr. He'd reach 50 goals by February and then set his sights on 60 and 70. Next, did you know that the Leafs drafted Bruce Boudreau, Ron Wilson, and Ken Holland in the same draft? Crazy, right? The Toronto Maple Leafs amateur scouting report in 1975 must have had a section titled, "Will look great in a suit in a few decades." The Leafs started strong by selecting future Selke Trophy winner Doug Jarvis in the 2nd round. After that, they focused on future coaches and GMs. They selected forward Bruce Boudreau in the 3rd round, defenseman Ron Wilson in the 8th, and goaltender Ken Holland in the 12th. Boudreau played for the Leafs for a few years, while Wilson stayed with the team for just 1 full season before moving on to the North Stars. Holland's NHL playing career was brief, lasting only 4 games, none of which were with the Leafs. While this draft didn't exactly set the Leafs up for decades of on-ice success, it produced 3 future coaching and management legends. Collectively, these 3 have coached nearly 2,500 games over 33 seasons and spent 27 years as GMs, winning 4 Stanley Cups. Not a bad haul for one seemingly random draft. At number 4, we have the time the Sharks led a game for 10 minutes only to lose 13-1. In the early 1990s, the Sharks were a notoriously bad team, which was unfortunate given that it was one of the highest scoring eras in NHL history. This led to many blowout losses, including a particularly memorable one in Calgary on February 10th, 1993. That night, the Flames made history by defeating the Sharks 13-1. The game actually started well for the Sharks. They got an early power play and scored quickly, taking a 1-0 lead less than 3 minutes into the game. But then, everything went downhill. Gary Suter tied the game midway through the first period, and seconds later, the Flames took the lead. From there, it was all Calgary. By the end of the game, Theo Fleury was a +9. Goalie Jeff Reese had set an NHL record with 3 assists in one game, and the league witnessed a rare scorigami. This was the first and only game with a final score of 13-1. Rolling in at number 5, we have the unusual case of 3 defensemen named Steve Smith being drafted in the 1981 and 1982 NHL drafts. The first Steve Smith was selected 16th overall by the Philadelphia Flyers in 1981. Then, in the 6th round of the same draft, the Oilers picked the second Steve Smith, using a pick they had acquired from the Leafs. The following year, in 1982, the Canadiens drafted the third Steve Smith in the 8th round, also using a pick from the Leafs. And yes, one of these turned into the Steve Smith most fans think of. The Oilers' Steve Smith went on to have a 16-season NHL career, playing for Edmonton, Chicago, and Calgary, and is perhaps best remembered for an infamous own goal in a Game 7. The Flyers' Steve Smith played just 17 NHL games spread across 5 seasons. Meanwhile, the Montreal Steve Smith never made it beyond the AHL. To this day, these are the only 3 Steve Smiths ever drafted into the NHL. Next, at number 6, we have the only trade in NHL history where a team gave up 4 first-round picks, and it wasn't for anyone particularly great. This unusual trade happened in 1997, orchestrated by none other than Phil Esposito, who was the GM of the Tampa Bay Lightning at the time. Esposito traded 4 first-round picks, 1 from each of the next 4 drafts, to the Flyers in exchange for Mikael Renberg and Carl Dykhuis. At first glance, this trade seems almost unbelievably strange, even by Esposito's standards. But there's more to the story. The Flyers had just signed Lightning center Chris Gratton to an offer sheet, creating quite a mess. When Tampa Bay chose not to match the offer, they were awarded Philadelphia's next 4 first-round picks as compensation. However, Esposito wasn't interested in picks, so he struck a side deal with the Flyers to trade those picks back in exchange for players. Unfortunately, the players he received, Renberg and Dykhuis, didn't quite live up to the hype. But it's the thought that counts, right? In reality, this was essentially a Gratton for Renberg and Dykhuis trade, but it officially went down as involving 4 first-round picks being traded back and forth, once as mandatory compensation and then as part of the deal. Up next, we have what might be the most pointless trade in NHL history between the Avalanche and the Bruins. While it's fun to debate the biggest trades in NHL history, what about the smallest and most insignificant? A strong contender for that title is the draft floor deal between the Bruins and Avalanche in 1997. Here's how it went. To Colorado, the 245th pick in the 1997 draft, and to Boston, the 246th pick in the 1997 draft. That's it. No players, no additional picks, no conditions. Just the second last pick of the draft traded straight up for the last pick. The Bruins used their pick to select Jay Henderson, who actually played 33 NHL games and scored once. So technically, the Bruins won the trade. The Avalanche picked Steve Lafleur, who never made it to the NHL. But the bigger question is, why would these teams even bother with such a trivial trade? According to a 1998 article in the Hockey News, the trade was purely symbolic. That year, the Bruins selected Joe Thornton with the number 1 overall pick, and at some point, they decided they wanted to have both the first and the last pick of the draft. And so, that's exactly what they did. And last but not least, we have a rookie who got his name engraved on the Stanley Cup after playing just one NHL game. Having your name on the cup is the ultimate achievement in hockey, often representing the culmination of a long and storied career. Legends like Ray Bourque and Lanny McDonald had to wait until their very last games to earn this honor, making for a great story with a perfect ending.
And the stories are going to get better and better as we age.
But then there's Steve Brule, who managed to get his name on the cup after his very first game. It's a strange story that begins with the Devils selecting Brule in the 6th round of the 1993 draft. A winger out of the QMJHL, Brule spent years putting up solid numbers in the AHL, but never broke into the NHL. That changed in 2000 when he was called up as one of the Black Aces during the Devils' playoff run. When John Madden got injured, Brule got his chance to play his first NHL game during the conference finals. That was it. He didn't score, didn't register any points, and played just 13 minutes in a game the Devils lost. Brule returned to the press box and never played another game for New Jersey. In fact, he only played 2 more NHL games in his career, both with the Avalanche in 2002. His one game during the Devils' Cup run wasn't in the final, so he didn't automatically qualify to have his name engraved. But in a surprising twist, the Devils' GM, Lou Lamoriello, requested that Brule's name be included anyway, and it was. And there you have it, our 8 hilariously weird and random facts about the NHL that you probably didn't know. Let us know in the comments which one you found the weirdest. And as always, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell for more videos.